In this video, we'll give you 6 sneaky Superflex quarterbacks with upside in 2024 fantasy leagues. I'm Jim Coventry along with Anthony Servino of RotoWire.
Jim, my first sneaky Superflex quarterback, Matthew Stafford, quarterback 19 off the board. And Matthew Stafford, we got to deal with the injury concern, but when he's healthy, he's an excellent NFL quarterback. Now, it doesn't bring a lot of rushing upside, but he is one of the best passing attacks in the NFL under Sean McVay, and he's loaded with weapons. In his past 2 seasons, he's been very erratic. He's been very up and down, but he finished 2023 with 23.4 fantasy points per game in his final 7 games when both he and his offensive line were healthy and clicking. The best part is they added Jonah Jackson to that ascending offensive line. Now, Stafford's one of the better values in fantasy football. He is being drafted nowhere near the top 12 tier, but he has a path to finish as a back-end quarterback 1. I love his value, and I love that he is a bargain in quarterback 1 leagues and in also Superflex leagues. A couple of tidbits about Matthew Stafford last season. He was 4th in red zone attempts. He was 14th in fantasy points per game. He was the 7th best quarterback in deep ball rate. He was one of the more efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. But what could have kind of limited his fantasy production was the fact that he had the 2nd most drops of any quarterback in the league. If these receivers just catch the ball a few more times, maybe Matthew Stafford has a higher fantasy finish. Jim?
First sneaky Superflex quarterback I'm looking at is Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. Herbert is going outside the top 15 quarterbacks. He has been largely forgotten by the fantasy community. In my mind, Justin Herbert is a superstar quarterback. Just remember back, he had that great rookie year, and then he also in year 2 had 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns. He can get it done. Now, look, the last 2 years, not so good. 45 touchdowns in 30 games. 2 years ago, Chargers had a lot of offensive line injuries, bad coaching. 2023, offensive playmakers decimated by injury. Justin Herbert had no chance, and then he missed time at the end of the season with his own injury. Most people are going into this year thinking, all right, Jim Harbaugh's there, Greg Roman's there. This team is going to play defense, and they're going to run the football. Here's the problem. They have a few great defenders. They have a lot of defenders who are poor. This defense is very unlikely to hold down opponents. So as much as the Chargers want to run the football, odds are they're going to trail most weeks. And so Justin Herbert's going to be forced to put the team on his shoulders. They draft Ladd McConkey. Hopefully he turns out to be a very good possession receiver. Quentin Johnson, I get it. Not so exciting there. But look, you even bring in DJ Chark, who is a useful receiver. Josh Palmer, when healthy, was on a 1,000-yard pace. But you have a superstar quarterback here, and that's the whole point. If they have to throw and the offensive line is good enough, Justin Herbert could finish as a top 12 quarterback.
Jim, my next late quarterback I can't stop drafting in Superflex leagues, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback 21 off the board. And prior to last season, in his 15 years as a starter, Rodgers has topped 4,000 passing yards 10 times and threw 30 or more touchdowns 8 times. We know what this guy can do with his Hall of Fame resume. And he has a slew of outstanding weapons. When you talk about Garrett Wilson, he posted back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL. They also brought in my guy, Mike Williams, who is a big play threat anytime he is healthy and on the field. And they have other complementary weapons as well. When you talk about Malachi Carley, who draws comps to Deebo Samuel. We know what Breece Hall brings as a receiver out of the backfield. Even Tyler Conklin is one of the more upside receiving tight ends in the NFL. So when we talk about top to bottom talented weapons, Aaron Rodgers has it all. But it can't just be about the weapons. Another reason why I think Aaron Rodgers gets back on track is the upgraded offensive line. They brought in Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, John Simpson, a bunch of veterans. They know how to get the job done. If they can keep Aaron Rodgers healthy and upright, I think Aaron Rodgers has back-end QB1 upside in 2024. Jim?
If you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to RotoWire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial with no credit card needed updated, just go to rotowire.com/Jim to see all of our content. Now, my second sneaky Superflex quarterback is Deshaun Watson of the Cleveland Browns. I understand Watson is not going to be the player he was in Houston. We could pretty much write that in pen. That's fine. That said, Watson in the last 2 years has played very limited time, but in each of those seasons, he was on a pace for 400 rushing yards. Rushing yards are pivotal in fantasy football. Watson is still a runner. Also, there's some optimism that he could be a little better than he was last year. Last year, even though Watson played a partial season, after week 3, he was nowhere close to healthy before he was finally done with his shoulder. But still, in the last 2 games Watson played last year, a pair of touchdowns against the Cardinals was impressive in that game, and then against the Ravens. The Browns were trailing big, and Watson showed the playmaking ability to help bring the Browns back against a very tough opponent. Now, we will see what happens in terms of this year, but Amari Cooper had a great connection with Watson. This year, the team brings in Jerry Jeudy to sub in for that Elijah Moore role, in which Elijah Moore was terrible after the catch. David Njoku's there. That said, with the rushing ability, Watson should be able to finish inside the top 20 quarterbacks with upside for a little bit more.
Jim, my last quarterback I can't stop drafting, Will Levis, quarterback 23 off the board. And Will Levis last year made 8 starts from week 8 to week 15. He was a quarterback 15 in those starts. Now, he did that despite being a rookie, being one of the worst offenses in the NFL, and having one of the worst supporting casts in terms of wide receivers and pass catchers overall. In 2024, Will Levis's outlook is a lot brighter when we factor in Brian Callahan, what he brings to the table. He's going to throw a lot more. He threw a ton with the Cincinnati Bengals, but we have to put realistic expectations on how much they're actually going to throw, because there's a big difference between Will Levis and Joe Burrow. And when it comes to supporting cast, that's going to be a lot better as well. Not only did this team spend top 10 picks in back-to-back drafts to upgrade the offensive line, but they opened up the checkbook to bring in guys like Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, and Tony Pollard, who ultimately helps out Will Levis. And Will Levis, by the way, he's a deceptively good runner. Now, he didn't really showcase it that much in the NFL last year, but in college, he showcased that aforementioned untapped rushing upside. He ran for 1,174 yards and 17 touchdowns across 4 college seasons, including a 516-yard and 9-touchdown campaign in 2021. He can get the job done as a runner. Maybe this is the year it all comes together for Will Levis, and if it does, he has back-end quarterback 1 upside, and you can get him as a 23rd quarterback off the board.
My third quarterback who's sneaky in Superflex leagues is Derek Carr of the New Orleans Saints. Again, I know Derek Carr is not a very good quarterback. I understand. That said, last year was as bad as things could have been. First of all, the Saints did no favors in giving Carr any protection. When Carr is under pressure, his productivity goes through the floor, and that's a problem. This year, the team brings in Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator. Now, Kubiak, from his father's scheme back in the day, has been a successful scheme. They use play action. They set up downfield shots. They set up quick slants. They protect their quarterback and provide safe throws. Carr has Chris Olave. When they want to go deep, there's Rashid Shaheed. We're hopeful Juwan Johnson's foot injury that he suffered is going to be okay down the road, who would give a seam opportunity to Derek Carr. All that said, the situation is better. Carr missed time with head and neck injuries last year. You're drafting him as a QB3 in Superflex League, but if this offense gives Carr time, that would allow Carr to finish better than his ADP.